Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to the show. Long time no see for some of you. It's been all of an hour and a half since we spent 8.5 hours together on day one of the trial of Jeff Spence and the murder of Kirby Carpenter. So glad that so many of you joined me today. But you know what I'm really glad about? To be joined by somebody else today, and that is Elizabeth Jones from Hillbilly Crime. How you doing?
Thanks, Fish, for having me. How you doing?
I am good. Hey, before we get into the nitty gritty of what we're talking about today, which of course will be the murder of Kevin Mullins and I guess, the prosecution of Mickey Steins, you told me right before we hopped on that you are 5 subscribers away from the big 2.5, from the big
Yes.
25K.
How about that?
That's rad.
24,995.
Pretty rad. So, guys, if you have not subscribed to Hillbilly Crime, this is what her channel looks like. See that 24.9? It's really 24.995. And if you have not subscribed, you should. You definitely
Yeah.
should. On over there and somebody just bump her over that 25,000 mark, because that is a big accomplishment. Huge.
And we are straight out of Letcher County.
Straight out of Letcher, baby. That's awesome. Are you selling merch and stuff now?
Yeah, have
That's
been
rad.
for a long time.
Oh, you probably do better than me. I don't plug myself very well. But you know what I did do? I just bought like 5 of my own shirts so that I can wear them in the live stream, because I like my Cluvelta brand. That one is my
Mhm.
favorite by far. I like Cluvelta, so that's what I'm going to be wearing in the live streams. Okay, enough inside baseball. Let's talk. Let's talk Letcher County. Let's talk about the happenings that have been going. But before we do, maybe just real quick, let me just do this, guys. Back, like you can hear a cello. Blah, 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 back in the past, there was a young man who thought, who really fancied himself a player, and that man's name was Ben Fields. Ben Fields was a deputy sheriff to Mickey Steins. Okay, Ben Fields was also in charge of the little GPS monitoring of the inmates in the Letcher County Jail. I think I have a picture of the Letcher County Courthouse. In the basement is the Letcher County Jail. Okay, back to Ben Fields. Ben Fields was trading. He was using his power over women in the courthouse to coerce and force them into sexual favors for not having to wear their ankle monitor and stuff like that. And this is where this all began. He pleaded guilty. He's actually a registered offender now. He pleaded guilty to not enough. Only got like 6 months in jail, where his wife was the jailer. It's crazy. But that led to a federal lawsuit by two women, Sabrina Adkins and Jennifer Hill, who filed suit against Ben Fields and, at the time, Mickey Steins, both in their official capacities. Now there's a new sheriff. Mickey Steins is not the sheriff, so he's not part of this. But what happened was Mickey Steins was deposed on a Monday, right, Elizabeth? It was the Monday
Mhm.
before. And
Mhm.
then, he had been acting strangely all along. But then on that Thursday, he goes in and he shoots 9 times toward Judge Mullins. And I don't think he misses. I don't think he misses one time. And it's caught on camera. So Judge Mullins has been murdered. And it all started with these two brave women, Sabrina Adkins and Jennifer Hill. And I'm only comfortable saying their names because they're out there. They're totally out there. Okay. Now, Ms. Hill, who we're looking at right here, has passed away. She died in 2023, but her estate has been kept on this lawsuit. And Sabrina Adkins is still on the lawsuit. And there was a major opinion that came out this week. Is that a good enough? That took way too long, but that's what happened, right?
Yeah, Jennifer Hill has been completely dismissed from the lawsuit. And
Yeah.
from what it looked like to me, Sabrina's barely made it through.
Well, she made it on 14th Amendment grounds. And her Fourth Amendment claim, though, did not go through. Just her 14th Amendment. So I was gonna see, like most things, it's all technical, right? So let's see. I think it was
I
on. Go
I
ahead.
was, we read pretty much most of it. We read the first half the other night,
Okay.
and then we started to read the second half last night. But I just went ahead and used Chat GPT, and I uploaded it into that and asked it to give me kind of a summary breakdown of what the opinion was saying.
Right.
And so I kind of went with that. And I was really shocked at how many things that was in this lawsuit or that wasn't in the lawsuit that I felt like the lawyers should have known, like the statute of limitations aspect of it, and the
Yeah.
the the part that there was no sworn statement even on record for Jennifer Hill in the first place. They didn't
Yeah.
they didn't have any sworn statement. Like, I felt like for Ned Pillersdorf to be this very, very experienced attorney, I just felt like the lawsuit, because there's another lawsuit that's happening out of the Pikeville jail, with a food service. There was a food service employee that was sexually abusing the inmates in there and stuff. And that lawsuit reads like, I mean, it flows so well. It's so well written. And there were such differences between this lawsuit, the way this one was written
Yeah.
and prepared, and unprepared, and I didn't realize how unprepared it actually was until
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I think sometimes that attorneys, um, because
That
I
bad?
imagine that Pillersdorf took this either pro bono or he took it as what do they call that, on contingency of a win, right? And I
Mhm.
sometimes think that they put in just enough effort on those. I have noticed that when I have to pay an attorney and I will put money into their little escrow account, right? Whatever they call that. What is that called? It doesn't matter. But like I will, I had one attorney say, okay, I think I can get this done for $3,500, but I will do my best not to spend all that $3,500. Just go ahead and deposit $3,500. I put it into the account. Lo and behold, that work costs exactly $3,500. They find a way to bill every single penny of it, plus a little bit
Of
more. Oh,
course,
Gavin, we went over, right?
of
So,
course.
yeah. Hey, this is from page 12, and this is the part where Hill's allegations are dismissed. It says the impetus for Hill's allegations and thus her claims is the allegedly coerced sexual contact between her and Fields. Therefore, Hill knew of the contact, the injury producing conduct, when it first occurred, triggering the statute of limitations. While the operative complaint sets the timeline for Field's conduct vis-a-vis Hill as occurring between August 2020 through October
Yes,
2021, her fiance Triplet states that he became aware that Fields was forcing Hill to provide sexual favors to him in December 2019. Based on this
yes,
affidavit, Hill had at latest until December 2020, 1 year later, to file her 1983 negligence, assault, and battery claims because, as Fields argues, Hill did not initiate the instant action until January 31st, 2022. Those claims are time barred. Therefore, gone, which I find really interesting. Like, I know that the laws were changed in order to
But
like this is one of the reasons why there was a successful civil suit against Donald Trump, is because anything having to do with SA, there was a movement during the Me Too movement to extend that
hmm
statute of those statutes of limitations
yeah,
federally. For some reason, I guess uh, that doesn't apply here. Oh, it's her negligence, assault, and battery claims, not the SA claim. Anyway,
I
I,
couldn't understand why Priya didn't apply in this, but I had spoke to Sabrina herself, and she told me that the lawyers all told her that Priya just didn't apply in this case, and she could never understand why either. You know, she
Priya
was always very.
Priya is the Prison R Word Elimination Act, right?
Mhm. Mhm. And, you know, the way that this judge wrote this, he's saying let the jury decide of whether this was consensual or not. And it's just so confusing to me. How is it even an option that it's consensual? You know?
Considering that he was her jailer.
Yes.
I mean,
And I felt
not
like
not
this
technically,
judge
but practically he was.
he supervised her release, and I even felt like the judge even wrote this in a very similar manner that Matt Easter conducted his interviews of the women. I felt like he just the way that the words that were used in this, it
Yeah,
said that she saw an opportunity to not pay for her ankle monitor. Like she flirted with him. She made flirtatious comments. Well, of course she did. She
that's
played the game,
yeah, yeah.
you know? And I don't understand. And I feel like having a judge write the way that he did in this, um, just kind of backs up why our legal system, that same kind of mindset, I feel like is permeated all through our court system.
Well,
We're talking
the
about a judge
well
in
the
the first
argument of consent though came from Field's side, right? Field's argument is this was not SA. This was consensual sexual encounters, right?
place.
Um, that's actually an area where I highlighted this. Actually, let me. To overcome the presumption of non consent, Fields points to evidence that Adkins admitted to making flirtatious comments to Fields and exchanging Facebook messages and photographs with Fields that were sexual in nature, which they were. I mean, and I don't think she disputes that at all, right? Like you said,
Oh,
it's the game. And she texted with Fields on a daily basis for a period of about 7 months. Other evidence suggests Adkins initiated the arrangement. She stated that she heard from fellow inmates that women would give Fields sexual favors to get off paying their home incarceration fees. She also sent a message to Fields stating, "Listen, I have to work something out so I can enjoy my life." Finally, Adkins does not recall Fields making any physical threats against her. True enough, Adkins made certain expressions of mutuality to the person in control of her liberty. The jury can grapple with the power dynamics, Adkins' extremity, and Fields' behavior in resolving the question of consent. That is for the fact finder, not the court. So, due to conflicting evidence on the issue of consent, the court denies summary judgment as to Adkins' Fourth Amendment claim against Fields. I don't know. I'm gonna be. I'm a quibbler, right? Let's quibble here for a second.
okay.
Um, it is not the judge's position. It's not the judge's responsibility to argue facts.
Right.
He or she is supposed to judge on the law, right?
Yep.
And so to me anyway, it's appropriate that he's saying it's the jury that needs to hear this. But I think where you're coming from and where I come from, most of us coming from, is kind of the like no duh kind of position, right? He was her supervisor. She was an inmate at the Letcher County Jail. There's really nothing to grapple with here. That's
Yeah.
kind of where we're coming from, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand why it's even a question, you know. But I'm not a lawyer. So I'm not trained and I'm not educated as a lawyer.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to understand the way that things are, certain things are.
Yeah. I'm in the same
But
boat as you.
we are intelligent and educated enough to smell a big pile of BS when we do.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see. Like the 14th Amendment. I
I
always
was
get these
just so
confused.
surprised that Ned didn't catch this stuff. And there was more than just one attorney on this.
Yeah.
Like even with the depositions, with those depositions, with something this big and this important, if if that had been my job, would be, as the stenographer or whatever they're called, and that was my job, and I had that many mistakes in that important of a document, I would be mortified, because my name would be on there. Maybe it's just because I don't have any experience in it, and maybe they're all full of mistakes like that. But
Yeah. I will
I
tell
don't
you, let me tell you a little bit about me, okay? I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. I am so afraid of failure that I avoid any opportunity to fail. It is really like this is going to sound really braggadocious here, but I always accomplished everything I set out to accomplish, but it's not because I was particularly good at everything. It's just that I only set out to accomplish the things that were accomplishable, right? And, and I am so petrified of failure that I don't do the things that I'm going to fail at. In fact, the very first thing in my life that I can remember that I decided I was going to do something that I knew I was punching above my weight classes when I said to my roommate, after the first time I saw my wife, I said to my roommate, I'm going to ask her to marry me. I did not say, I'm
know.
going to marry her because she was definitely going to say no. But the reason I bring it up is that lawyers aren't like that, man. They just put out arguments, and win, lose or draw, they seem to be okay with it.
Mhm.
I just I don't
Yeah.
know. So maybe that's
Well,
it. Maybe they're just like throwing stuff at the wall.
maybe, yeah. Hey, that's okay. I get that. I get that. I you just the way that this all kind of unfolded, I don't think that anybody really even knew about this lawsuit until the sheriff shot the judge. It was not something that was really talked about a lot around here, that Ben Fields had even done this, because you got to remember, Sabrina and Jennifer, neither one were from here.
Oh, where were
They
they
were
from?
they were from Pike County.
Why were
And I
they in Letcher
don't
County
even think
jail?
Jennifer may have even been from Floyd County, maybe. But they weren't. I don't think they were from Letcher County. And was Jennifer? Do you know? Was Jennifer from Letcher County?
I've always just kind of assumed, but that rings true that they're not. That
Yeah,
rings true. So, but what were they doing in the Letcher County jail? Just uh,
got,
they
got they must have
got
got in trouble across the county
got caught
line.
in Letcher. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't tell you
and
how many times I'm in hearings where I'll be like in a like there'll be these days in court that are just hearing days from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's nothing but hearing after hearing, and sometimes they're prelims, sometimes they're arraignments, sometimes they're I don't know plea hearings and everything like that. But I can't tell you how many times somebody will stand up for their hearing and they can't accomplish anything because in order to accomplish what they want to do in the hearing, that inmate has to have something resolved in another county, And for that county to resolve that thing, another county has to resolve that thing, right? It's not like people who are doing crime really care what county they're in, right? Or what jurisdiction they're in.
Well, like with Sabrina, she didn't have a place to live here in Letcher County. That was one of the reasons why she needed to go back, to over there into Pike County, because she didn't have anywhere to live here. And her house arrest was trying to be in Letcher County, and so in her thing there, that was part of what she was asking Ben for, was to be able to go back home, to Pike County.
Ah,
Um, there was, and you also have to remember, um, like Ben's wife, she ended up getting like a promotion. I mean, it wasn't a promotion from within. She went from being a county employee to being a state employee in the courthouse with benefits and all
yeah,
that, and I'm sure Ben was enjoying, as her spouse, those benefits.
yeah.
Um, it wasn't like nobody had ever, not the first time, still to this day, there has not been not one community leader, elected official, nobody that has come out and condemned the behavior of Ben Fields.
Really?
Not one. Not one. Never. Nothing. Nope.
That that
Because
that's a little suspicious, right?
if they did, they've got his wife sitting right there in their face. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I kind of went a little more nefarious. I was
He's
like,
her
well, I
friend.
don't want to go out publicly and condemn something that I knew what was going on. And people know that I knew because I was also doing something tangentially related or what. Hey, can we just pause for a minute and take a look? No, wrong one at your channel, which now says 25,000 subscribers. Look at that.
Yay!
That's
And we
beautiful.
were on the Gavin Fish show
There
and we
it is.
crossed over. Thank you, guys.
That's a big accomplishment, man.
25,006 subscribers.
Nice. Hey, you know how I just did that whole diatribe on being like avoiding things that I was afraid of? Uh,
Uh-huh.
Before I hit 100,000 subscribers, I hardly ever talked about how many subscribers I had because I was like, oh, 50? It's not really. Dude, it was a huge accomplishment. Why was I not celebrating it? It was so cool.
Yeah,
Like every step of the way. This is hard work. This is hard work.
it is.
Yeah,
It
it's
is. It
so
is.
thank you all
Yeah.
for supporting hillbilly crime. It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Absolutely. I'm having the time of my life. You know how many years, just dealing with the rejection that I felt, and just it's very humbling. You go away crying and there ain't no healing. You just got to heal and get over it and move on.
Yeah.
And now, since the show has taken off the way that it has, it is giving me the opportunity to use just this massive amount of knowledge and experience that I've had in my lifetime. And it's just the best time of my life.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the old saying? Do something you love and you don't work a day in your life, right? I do feel that way. I I
Yeah.
I go to bed tired. Like
Yeah.
I go to bed tired, but I love every moment of it. And there are friendships that you make. Like you and I living far away from each other never would have been friends ever.
Uh-uh.
And even like Autumn, my lead moderator, she lives like, I don't know, 5 6 blocks from me. but we're not in each other's orbit, right? We don't have, there's not an overlap in the Gantt chart of Gavin's life and Autumn's life, except for this. And it's a really cool
Mhm.
thing. I have another moderator, Mooney, who's my OG. She's the first member of my channel. I did a live event a couple year and a half ago, something like that, and she came all the way up from Virginia, so we got to meet in person. You know, it's just so yeah. It's there are way more benefits than earning a living, which is also a terrific benefit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always knew to do this, I had to build a business. I built it from the ground up, from the foundation.
Yeah,
It has all been my blood, sweat, and tears poured into it. And like I said, and a lifetime of experience and rejection and pain.
yeah, yeah. Good
And
on
it's
you.
amazing.
That's really good. That again, going back to my personality type versus your personality type, you full on just jumped in and were like, "I'm going to do this," and
Hmm.
that's awesome. It's really
Yeah.
inspiring.
Yeah, I was like, I have to have this. I have to have this every single month. This is, I cannot settle for any less. And I just had to dig in and get her done. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, lots of people that are. Yeah, look at this. First of all, Mooney is awesome. Beach bum uh, says great work to both of us. Yeah, there's lots of lot party on the patio for hillbilly crime. 25,000 huge for Elizabeth. Congrats, Elizabeth. Proud to be a hillbilly crime member. Yeah, you got lots of people over here singing your praises. All right, let's again. We defaulted to inside baseball. Let's get back over to. I was looking at. Um, I did a quick little. No, where was that? I have a whole bunch of notes that I gave myself here. Oh, the oversight stuff. Okay, so in let me see if I can find this real quick. Oh, come on. Um, Let me just see if I can find this from my notes. Okay, now this is the part that has to do with Mickey Steins. Um, Go Roger. Here we go. Okay, this is coming from an opinion and an order. So this is the judge writing, right? The judge writes, evidence shows that over the course of time, Steins, Fields, and other Letcher County Sheriff's Office employees regularly sent each other graphics of sexual imagery and made sex related and crude comments via Facebook. Steins later testified and conceded that this set a horrible example as far as acting unprofessional. I mean,
mhm.
do you think this all started just because a bunch of immature boys got badges and guns and
Yeah, I think that's a really, really great way to simplify this because they act like a bunch of fraternity boys,
or
frat
even
boys.
younger? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and very, very immature. One of the other things, aspects of that suit that I just can't get over, also is, shouldn't Ned have kind of known that part of it too?
I Well, let's see. Prior to the complaint, maybe not, because he would need discovery to. He probably knew something about it, I would imagine. But this all came out in discovery, right? The Facebook messages and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think I just forgot what I was getting ready to say. Give me a second and I'll remember it. Gavin,
It's fine.
it happens all the time.
No, but that is one of those things where, like, in the Ellen
Throw
Greenberg
that back
case.
up there real fast and
Yeah,
it'll
you got it.
trigger me.
Yeah.
Trigger.
In the Ellen Greenberg case, which, by the way, guys, in 5 days, the Hulu documentary that's produced by Ellen Dakota Fanning is on the Ellen Greenberg case is hitting the proverbial airwaves. Everybody check it out. But I was going to say, in the Ellen Greenberg case, there was a huge, like, sea change in the case when, in deposition, one of the former medical examiners said that she was asked to examine part of Ellen Greenberg's neck and found no vital response. And so her testimony was, it's possible that one of the stab wounds happened post mortem, right? And it was
Mm.
like 10 years into trying to get as much information as they can about this, and they found it turned out to be kind of the smoking gun. So maybe that's what happened here.
Well, what I was, I remembered what I was going to say about the official capacity.
Oh,
You
okay.
remember, I've been harping on that from, ever
Yeah.
since the Billy Jones thing happened. I was just, because I'm not a lawyer, I didn't see that coming, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I've never, so I'm not trained that way.
Billy
And
Jones
so,
being the current sheriff of Letcher County, right?
yeah. And so whenever I saw it, it surprised me. I started researching it and I found out that's a very common practice. Like that's something that they do all the time. And any lawyer worth their salt would have known that.
To
So,
sue in Mickey Stein's in his personal capacity.
yes, there's no way for Ned and them to have as much experience as lawyering as what they do. There's no way that they didn't know that this was going to happen if they didn't name him in his individual capacity, that he would be kicked off, the new sheriff would replace him, and then Mickey is done out of the suit completely. It doesn't matter that he failed to train. It doesn't matter, none of that. That's what I read in that suit last night.
Yeah, it matters that the sheriff failed to train, not that Mickey Stein's failed to train, right? Because it,
Hmm.
yeah.
And so the deposition was out, because they were requesting to open up that discovery again.
Did
And
that?
the judge denied that.
Oh, yeah. I completely missed that in this. That, I mean, that's in this opinion. He denied reopening of discovery,
Hmm.
which would, I mean, they were asking to redepose Mickey Steins.
Based on what Jeremy Bartley had said in that interview.
But Mickey Steins is not a party to the lawsuit, so why would there be a deposition of Mickey Steins?
Uh-huh. It doesn't matter now. And once they replaced him with Billy Jones, and that was in the works before Mickey ever shot Kevin. Like we found
Yeah.
out in my investigating, found out that Judge Mullins had a meeting allegedly with our judge executive, Terry Adams, and he personally, told him who he wanted to replace Mickey. And so it was in the works for Billy Jones to replace Mickey before the judge was ever shot.
Was Mickey wanting to retire or wanting to get out of?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
wanted out.
he wanted out,
Okay.
but that was a way, like they all knew. Nobody can tell me they didn't know and were planning on Mickey probably retiring, instead of shooting the judge and going out this way.
Yeah, no,
He was
nobody saw that
probably
one coming.
Yeah, he was probably planning on retiring, and then they would replace him with Billy Jones. And of course they knew this was going to happen. That Mickey would go out, the new sheriff would go in, it would kick him out of the lawsuit. And because I've been saying from the very beginning, I was afraid this lawsuit would end up getting dismissed because of things like that right there, that he wasn't named in his individual capacity.
Was Billy Jones? What was he doing before sheriff?
He worked for Mickey, but he was a school resource officer at the high school. And so he was actually hired. If I understand it correctly, they said that the school hires their own school resource officer, but they're under the sheriff's department.
They have
So
to have
like,
some kind of certification or something, a law enforcement
yeah,
certification.
yeah, and they work for the sheriff's department. I guess it might just be an understanding that the sheriff's department and the school have.
Yeah,
We want to interview our own, applicants,
yeah,
and we get to pick who we want. But they probably just have to be, um, you know, certified and have all that criteria
yeah.
to
Which,
apply to the sheriff's department.
funny enough, we learned along the way that Mickey did not receive any of the training that qualified him as a law enforcement officer. He
Very
bypassed the whole thing.
Listen, he ain't the only one. Do you know how many of our current that are still as low as current members of law enforcement who were grandfathered in, meaning they got they've been on the job for 20 years, so they never did go to training. They just got grandfathered,
Hmm.
meaning they got on the job training.
Yeah, yeah. There was another part of this that I wanted to get to. Ben Fields, Ben Fields raised a qualified immunity defense. I freaking hate immunity. I hate immunity. I don't like. I don't
Mhm.
even know how a stronger way to say it. I hate immunity. It drives me crazy. With
Mhm.
qualified immunity, at least sometimes you can get around it. But the high official immunity, that's just the worst. I just hate it so much. But Fields was was raising the issue of having qualified immunity from this lawsuit, which cracks me up. It's like, hey, I know that I was doing wrong. I know that I was saying a bunch of women out of Letcher County Jail, but you probably don't know this, Judge. I was a sheriff's deputy, therefore I have qualified immunity. But I wanted to read this little piece, right? So Fields raises a qualified immunity defense. Qualified immunity protects a public official from liability unless one, let's see if this applies. The official violated a statutory or constitutional right.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
two, the right was clearly established at the time of the challenged conduct because there is a genuine dispute of material fact as to whether Fields violated Adkins' 14th Amendment rights. The court cannot find at this stage that Fields is entitled to qualified immunity. I honestly think that this was a moment of, dude, we just got to put an argument up there. Fields' attorneys was like, we got to put an argument up there. We have nothing, but it might stick. Let's say qualified immunity. I'm glad the judge found against that.
Yeah. Those are the arrogant um things that just get under my skin.
Oh, I hate that stuff. I hate it. Listen, I keep going back to the Ellen Greenberg case, but there was a district attorney, an assistant district attorney, who, in my opinion, based on everything that I've learned, all the documents that I have read, was the ringleader that caused the medical examiner to change Ellen Greenberg's death from homicide to that she had done it to herself. I believe that it was that person in the district attorney's office, an assistant district attorney, that was the ringleader that made that happen. And when the Greenbergs filed their lawsuit, the ink wasn't even dry before the charges against her, the allegations against her were dismissed for high official immunity. Didn't seem to matter that she did that just because. She was a DA. She's immune.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hate that.
It's something. It's something. And, that's a lot of people the other night, whenever we were reading the ruling, people were saying, well, didn't the judge have, or, well, what they were talking about was, does a circuit judge have to report? Like, are they a mandated reporter of SA like that?
Yeah. Can't
Are they?
imagine that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to
Because
depend.
the last time I was on your show, didn't you say that you thought a judge would have
I would.
qualified immunity? They wouldn't have to report it, or if they had knowledge of it, they wouldn't have to tell it. What was that? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what I said. Again, I'm a quibbler, so I say a lot of things that I'm just saying for the purpose of argument. Um, but yeah,
Uh,
a judge would enjoy high official immunity. He would
mm.
definitely do that. So if he has that and he's also a mandated reporter, I think the immunity would kick in.
So if a judge knew that his bailiff was SAing women that he was bringing up from the jail, would he be mandated to report that, or could he keep that to himself and enjoy that immunity while it continued to happen?
I think probably the latter is my guess. But in this case, the allegation is that Kevin was part of the problem. He
Right,
wasn't
right.
like if Elizabeth Jones was sitting on the bench and she's not engaged in all this because she is above all of that and she's not gross, right? And she found out that her bailiff was doing that. Anybody with integrity, that would be a fireable offense. Bang, criminal
Yes,
charges. Bang, right? We
yes.
there's a judge out in Clarion County. Her name is Sarah Seidel Patton, who she is that kind of person.
Yeah.
I like anytime anybody brings up questions of because we get tips all the time, about impropriety in government, and I take those very seriously. But anytime somebody says it was Judge Seidel Patton, I go, no, I do not think so. Right? She's just too tough for that.
Yeah.
That's so. But Kevin was not that apparently, or
Well,
allegedly, or reportedly.
people are going to have different experiences. People that do bad things. Good people do bad things. And bad people do good things. It goes
Yeah,
both ways. Excuse me. It goes both ways. And so, you know, when it's somebody that we are friends with, or somebody who's our family member or something like that, we don't want to believe that somebody we love or have admiration for is
sure.
doing these kinds of things. But, you know, I, what ends up happening is you turn a blind eye because you get in denial. You don't want to admit it. And then people just continue to spiral. They just do worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, it is easy to like. Very few people just I don't know if I'm right about this. This is my position at least for now, right? But it
Mhm.
does seem like very few people just are just criminally insanely bad. It seems like it starts with one little thing here and there and they just take one step, they keep on going until they have committed horrible acts, whether they're illegal or immoral or unethical or whatever it is. But yeah, the I think that a guy like Kevin, if uh, and I want to put this caveat out there because he's not here to defend himself, right?
Mhm.
So there's that. But if Kevin Mullins was doing the kinds of things that I suspect him of, that people like Taya said he did,
Mhm.
I would imagine that he got to that like if he was doing what Sabrina Adkins said that he was doing, um, like compare and contrast what Taya said he did to what Sabrina said he did. They're both reprehensible, but one is legal, right? Because the age of consent is crazy
Mhm.
young in Kentucky, right? But one is legal and one is a crime. It is felonious. So he would have made that like, and getting to Taya, he would have made a journey to where he was comfortable doing that to Taya and other people like her. I suspect.
Well, I think that this has been it's been an evolving thing, process, where I think they went from just partying, because at one time Judge Mullins was a young guy.
Yeah,
And so I'm sure, and he's from this area, so I'm sure he's just partied along with everybody else his age or whatever. And substance abuse, addiction, excuse me, does not discriminate, right?
yeah,
So I suspect that he was also struggled with substance abuse. We've heard that from several sources. Um, and I think that he went from being in a circle of men who long time practice of paying women for their services
hmm
in this area. I think this didn't just start with Judge Mullins. This is something that's happened for long time.
generations. I bet it's
Yeah,
generations.
yeah. And I think that it just evolved and it went from them paying women for favors and the occasional catch one with the opportunity to get a BJ while she's in court. That probably didn't happen constantly. That was probably just something that happened every once in a while at the beginning. And then imagine this with the rehab, with the opioid crisis, when all
Yeah,
this money started coming in and the treatment options started coming, and they started putting. I think it went from paying women for favors to funneling an endless supply of women, for whatever purpose, for whether it was to send them to rehab and get, another notch on your belt, your rehab belt, or for the funding,
hmm
or for house arrest, to go on the house arrest for those numbers, or for Ben, or, at rehab, they were under Michael Clark, the preacher man. If they went on house arrest, then they went under Ben Fields. If they were in the jail, they were under Ben's wife.
yeah.
So anywhere that they went, I feel like this was a sex trafficking and human trafficking operation that kind of just grew into that. I think just the right doors opened and the devil walked right on in,
Well,
you
and I
know.
think you've been quite astute. You're absolutely right in your definition of human trafficking here. Like a lot of us will think, like kidnapping women on one continent, putting them on a container ship and sending them to another to be in slavery for the rest of their days, kind of thing. That's not most of what it is. Like we're talking about trafficking when we're talking about women coming out of a jail to give sexual favors for you know for special, I guess, dispensation, right? That's what it is that they're doing, especially when it's known. Crying out loud, it's known. I mean, Sabrina and in her proffer, she didn't come up with this idea on her own, right? No, she was told that
Mm-mm.
this is how it works.
Yeah. And then they go right on upstairs to the drug court program where then they give up, their lawyer and remember, uh, from the time they get arrested up until they agree to go into drug court, um, the only attorneys that they have are what? Their friends, their buddies that you're
Yeah,
either having to take from the public defender's office or you have to hire one, and I mean, we're seeing why so many people. I can't tell you the people that have contacted me and said, for 10 years, I just could not understand how we lost our lawsuit, how we lost, this court case, whatever it was. Um, I could not understand, we would leave and our biggest question was, why didn't our attorney say anything? Why didn't our attorney fight for us? Now they're finding out. 10 years later, they're realizing, oh, I paid legal fees for this,
yeah.
for what we got.
Well, and
People.
especially in it's such a small place, like everybody knows each other, and
And you know what? Something else I didn't even think about until I saw it the other day. I didn't realize that lawyers are unregulated, like their fees,
oh yeah, yeah,
that it's unregulated. So if you have an attorney like Daniel Dotson, who's supposedly the best, he is the one you want. If he says 100 grand to take your case, you better scrape up that 100 grand, because that's the only option you got,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Well, what happens when you find out it might not be a great thing to have him as your lawyer? You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
The way that they set their pricing, I think, is largely unregulated. It's open to the free market, and in my experience, a $700 an hour attorney will do a better job for you than a $200 an hour attorney. Um,
Well, here, what people have ended up being exposed to, not all the time, not everybody, but more times than not, you give me 10 grand, you give me $10,000, and I'm going to take care of this for you. Don't you worry about it. They'll scrape by, sell their house, sell their car, do everything that they can to get that money, because they have to have this attorney, they have to have this lawyer, or it's going to destroy their life or take everything they got. And they give them this money, and then the lawyer just doesn't do what they promised
yeah,
they would.
I do have an issue with lawyers, but I don't want to. I don't want to get sued by any lawyer, so maybe I should keep it to myself. Um, but I don't think I've ever. It's not like I'm like getting sued all the time or suing people all the time. I've had all of like two legal issues in my life. Both
Mm.
times it was one was related to my channel. I got a very, very disturbing cease and desist letter from a very powerful family, and it scared the crap out of me. I hired an attorney, right? Uh, but I've never had a meeting with an attorney where their first question wasn't, okay, so how are you going to pay me? Like they put on the squeeze. That is their first question. Hey, Gavin, nice to meet you. Hey, before we talk about your case a little bit, tell me about your finances. It's like that.
Yeah,
Some of it
yeah.
is like full on. Hey, just so you know, I've got an hour here, but I really only have 10 minutes unless I understand how are you going to pay me.
Mhm.
Like, my savings. You understand that I cost this much? Yes. You're comfortable with that? Yes. Okay. It does turn out I have an hour. Because
Mhm.
otherwise they're gone, right? Everything is billable.
Yeah.
Drives me
And
crazy.
around and they continue, continue. And so if they've continued a case 2 or 3 times and you've paid that lawyer 10 grand, well, that fourth time that it's time to go to court, that it rolls back around, well, they're asking for more money.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're asking for more money and they don't have any more money. So the next thing you know, that lawyer is withdrawing from that case and they've just got everything that family had. And now that the family still hasn't even made it to court yet.
Actually, this is reminding me, yeah, of the case that you talked about that where the guy's been waiting for 10 years to be put on trial for murder.
15.
15 years. And it's that
15 years.
exact situation, right?
Mm-hmm. And Jenny took the case.
Yeah, because she's
My
awesome.
Jenny.
I haven't met her, but I think she's awesome. Hey,
She
what do you have going on your channel tonight?
Isn't that ironic? As hard as what I am on attorneys, and my bestie is a
Yeah,
lawyer.
yeah. No, I have a
It's
friend. I have a friend. I won't say the state, but she's a sitting judge, and she behind the scenes has been very helpful on a case that I've been investigating. Call her up, and she goes through, she she just goes through whatever training was put into her head when she went into law school, and then the years of being a prosecutor and the years of being a judge. She just, I love watching. So here I am complaining about lawyers, but I love good lawyering, right? It's like
yeah,
I love watching her
me too.
just figure it out. It's so cool to watch. And so yeah,
Mhm.
maybe I need to eat a little crow and like that.
That that was what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a lawyer. Like that's what I hold up on the pedestal is an attorney. It
Well, you've got a master's. Just go get your JD for crying out loud.
well,
What's the matter with you? So lazy.
Well, I had a choice. I could either go to law school or get my master's. That was where I was at in my crossroads. And I had a friend who was an attorney, and he told me, he said, he said there's two types of lawyers, or there's two types of people who end up who are lawyers. He said one, they wear their heart on their sleeve. They take on everybody's cause, and he said they burn out really fast. He said, and a whole lot of them end up taking their own life, to be
Oh
honest
dear.
with you. He said, or he said the other one, he said they got into it because, it's the prestige of the courtroom. It's the argument. It's the getting in front of a jury and a judge and, giving your best argument and,
Yeah.
trying to. And he said, but you don't take on everybody's cause. He was like, one's a lot more ego than the other.
Yeah.
And he said, and so I listened to that, and I felt like my mental health was more important. And so I figured I shouldn't be an attorney because I knew what he was saying. I would do that. I would take on everybody's case. I would probably do it for free all the time and I wouldn't make any money, you know? And so I get it. But that was what I always wanted to do. That was what I always wanted to be. And so I admire Jenny so much, that she's a single woman and and is a successful attorney. Um
I considered getting my JD once, and I even applied to a program and was accepted at San Francisco University for what they called an executive JD. So the whole idea was to study the law, but don't practice law. That was the whole idea. And
Mm,
I kind of look back on that. I kind of feel like that would have been cool.
yeah, yeah. Well,
I
that's
had I
why
had a
I'm
long
so
row.
hard.
Like I
That's
had a
why I'm so
long
hard
path
on
to get
lawyers.
to that because I didn't have, yeah, I had a long path to get to that, and maybe that's why I didn't do it. Again, getting back to the scared little Gavin little illustration, but I do like the idea of studying the law. I just,
Mhm.
yeah, being a lawyer though, no, thank you. That's definitely not me.
Well,
I,
that's why I'm so hard on them, is because, I feel like I hold them to a higher standard. And when I see them doing really bad stuff and using a very, very special, like what they have is a gift. It even says in the Bible, woe to the doctors and lawyers, because they have a lot of responsibility.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay, I already asked you the question. I will stop interrupting your answer. What are you doing tonight on your channel?
Oh, I'm sorry. We are looking at the preacher man's pardon application.
Ah, yes, guys, the preacher man. For those of you who don't know, my guy named Michael Clark, he was there that day when Judge Mullins was killed. He has
Mhm.
said publicly, I think, I don't want to misquote, but I think he said that both Kevin and Mickey were friends, right?
Mhm.
And
Well, they were both his best friends.
okay, and he he basically was kind of a liaison between the court and the rehab system, which is a big, big money grab, not just in Letcher County, but everywhere, right? And you can still feel good about it because you're helping people get help, but it's a
Well,
big
that's
money grab.
what we're talking about is the human trafficking pipeline was Michael Clark.
You think so?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the rehab in Judge Mullins' courtroom, and that was the rehab pipeline in the drug court. They were sending them all to ARC. Michael was in the courtroom. That's why he was in Judge Mullins's chambers that day. He worked in the courtroom on a daily basis.
Mr. Clark, I think he describes himself as, I don't know that he describes himself this way. This is be my description. He is an ex-con, former drug addict at least. I don't know if he was a dealer or not, but
Mhm.
definitely
Trap.
a. Is that what he got convicted on? Was trafficking? Okay, so a
Mhm.
dealer, and who kind of the story is that he found Jesus and repented, saw the light, and made the switch. But for some reason that is inexplicable to either of us, he got a full pardon for his crimes after he spent time in prison, right?
We're going to read through there and see what the difference is. Is it a full pardon? Is it a gubernatorial pardon? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know
All
what the
right.
difference
Well, if you guys are interested in
is.
that,
We're going to look.
I normally would try to forward you on to her channel, but it's not quite set up yet, so we didn't get that set up. But thank you to all of you who support me and
Mhm.
support Elizabeth. Thanks for being here tonight. And I know you got to run, so thank you very much for being here, Elizabeth. I'll let you go.
All right,
All
man.
right. Have a good night.
Exactly.
All right, guys. I love having Elizabeth on. She always makes herself available. I want to do more collaborations with more folks. I've actually got some guests lined up for the coming week. So, really looking forward to that. Let's see, we have Josh Ritter, who from Courtroom Confidential, who is coming on next week. We're not quite sure exactly what the content that will be, but he is coming on, and then Brian Bennett, the South Carolina former police officer and strangulation expert, is going to be coming on October 1st, which is, got to get that. Oh my goodness. October 1st is Wednesday. On October 2nd, I'm going to be joined by Josh and Sandy Greenberg. That might be a pre recorded segment because that happens to be Yom Kippur, which is very sacred to them, and they don't want to be on in the evening time after Yom Kippur starts. So we will do that during the day, and then I will play that for you. So we've got a lot coming up, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. Real quick before we go, let me just do my pitch. Right, if you if you like this kind of content, guys, a great way, there's a support me page on my website that lists all the ways that you can support. Down at the bottom is a very important one, and that is supporting my lead mod, Autumn, who really takes care of you guys in the live chat. She takes care of me. She takes care of so many of us. You can click that button to buy Autumn a coffee. You can subscribe to the newsletter. There's all sorts of things you can do. And one of the things that you can do is you can buy swag. Now, I just added a men's Cluvelta t-shirt. I added it because I wanted a Cluvelta t-shirt. But we've got Cluvelta swag, we've got all sorts of, we got dill hole swag, we have got Diddler on the Roof stuff, classic stuff. So if you would like to get a little good out of your hard-earned money, buying swag is a good way to do that. You can rep the channel, which I deeply appreciate. Also, don't forget about crimecod.com, which is my true crime and news website. Join the newsletter if you can. Join us over on the Fish Tank on YouTube. Not YouTube. I always do that on Facebook if that is your deal. A couple more comments before we go. Just butterfly kisses. Come join us on Hillbilly Crime Now. Great show. Thank you very much. Yeah, everybody head on over there. Kentucky Granny says, put your DNA on the like button. Denise says, us hillbillies are investigating Preacher Man. He's dirty. GF and Elizabeth, when you think about it, you both are arguing a lot. Yeah, just not very well, right? Finns and Hillbillies in the house. You guys are really awesome. Thank you very much for spending your time with me tonight. We will be coming back tomorrow for day 2 of the trial of Jeff Spence. That starts at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I will get that set up here tonight. And with that, I bid you adieu. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.